Hey folks, Pat here from DNS, and this Madison area fishing report is current as of Friday, January 23rd. Well, happy Friday, everybody. I hope you all had a good week. I had kind of a rough start to my morning here. I got in and realized the phone wasn't working, and then the internet wasn't working. And so after a call to Spectrum, it turns out that there's a area-wide outage that happened anyway. We're back up and running now. I do apologize for getting this report out later than I would like, and I apologize if anybody tried calling the Big Fish hotline because that was also down. But like I said, we're back up and running now. We do have a lot to talk about, so let's just get started. Before we do, I want to stress that this report is for current conditions as of today's date and is based mostly on what I hear from other anglers. Many factors can cause ice conditions to vary, and what I report should never be considered the final word, so please be careful no matter where you fish. For up-to-date ice conditions, please feel free to call the shop at 608-241-4225, and we can let you know what we're hearing around town. Or if you run into some sketchy ice yourself, call the shop and let us know, or post in the comments below. So we'll just go through some things here. I guess the biggest news item, like literal news, was that there was a carjacking downtown, which, you know, in an urban area, I guess happens every now and then. But this one was especially unique because the guy here, there's this picture if you happen to know him. I know some folks that want to talk to him, stole a car near the hospital and then drove it into Brittingham Bay, also known as Monona Bay. So as far as I know on the map here, I can kind of show you. So he took off from the hospital up here at Meritor, drove down the street, and then turned here, took a left, and I guess, according to what I talked to folks, he went off this kind of rock wall. If you know, the bank here is reinforced with all these big boulders. It's not easy to climb down. Launched off that, landed on the ice, and then kind of took off this way and went through the ice out over here. Now, I don't know if our friend, what's his name, Derek something? Derek Newton. I don't know if Derek Newton is an ice angler or listens to my fishing reports, but if he did, he would know that that was open water just last week. So maybe Derek should be tuned into these reports. But anyway, the car went through, he got out and took off running. I guess he's still on the loose, or cops are looking for him, and the car, there's an SUV, sank to the bottom. I'm not sure if it's out yet. But, you know, we'll be talking about ice and stuff as we go through the report, but that's kind of the big news item. I got a ton of calls about that yesterday, folks asking if it was safe to go down there, and of course it is. But anyway, covered that. The cams out there, Limnology cam, boy, it looks cold out there, and it is cold out there. But it just even looks cold from the cams. So we are definitely making ice with this weather. The problem is that it's canceled the Yara Fishing Club's Kids Fishing Day that was scheduled to be hosted tomorrow down on Brittingham Bay there. So unfortunately, you know, it's a bummer when it's too cold, but you just can't be inviting kids out for stuff like this. And thanks to Barry Adams, who wrote a little article here in the State Journal trying to get the word out for folks. But do pass the word along if you or somebody you knew was planning to go to this. It is canceled, and we will be doing that again next year. What is not canceled is the Kicker Cup. So this is a great competitive ice fishing event hosted by some great folks. This Sunday, they're going to be on Wapisa. The event is from 7:30 to 2 p.m., and you still have time to sign up. If you want to get out there and compete with some of the best anglers around, I've had guys in the shop this morning that are going out to pre-fish from Illinois, folks come down from Minnesota, and all over Wisconsin, of course, to compete in this. So it's a cool event, and yeah, test your skills against some of the best, and you can look them up at the Kicker Cup on Facebook here. Otherwise, I think that's it for announcements. We got some other things. Yara Fishing Club raffle tickets are being sold here. This is a great way to maybe win a cool prize, but also benefit a great club that does great things for fishing, especially with those kids fishing events. So swing by. You can pick up a couple tickets and maybe win a great prize. There was another Drinking with Scissors last night. This one was at Black Earth Lanes down in Black Earth. You know, so it was a bit of a drive for me coming from Madison, but it was really, really worth it. It's such a cool spot. It's kind of a retro bowling alley that they've kind of fixed up, and really great food there. And they had a great turnout. You can see this is from Black Earth Angling's Instagram here. And these are always fun events. The next one is going to be, February 4th at the Muska Lounge. So Muska Lounge, again, I mention it every time, but if you like fishing and you like bars, that's the bar for you. It's a really cool spot. So it's two Wednesdays from now, I guess, is going to be the next Drinking with Scissors at the Muska Lounge. And those are great. We do have ice safety stuff in stock. We are making a ton of ice, but it's always important to be safe, and especially if you're exploring ice where nobody else has been, get yourself a spud bar. At the very minimum, you want some creepers so you're not slipping and sliding and hitting your head. Safety spikes for pulling yourself out in the event you do go through, and at least a length of rope. These J ropes are great for hauling stuff around, but yeah, at least have something you can help other people. You know, with all this ice coming around, we do have a lot of folks that are going to be doing more ice camping, and of course you got guys with permanents. If you want to have keep tabs on your tip-up array, Vulture systems are the best way to do it, and we have them in stock. Of course, we got all the favorites as far as like locally made, awesome Panfish plastics, Beaver Dam tip-ups. We got the limited edition ones. But, this cold does suck. So when it's cold as balls outside, why not stay inside and think about fishing and get prepared for fishing? So we got fly tying stuff. And it's not just flies. You can tie hair jigs. You can tie walleye flies. You can tie all kinds of stuff. And we got everything you need to do that. As far as announcements on the front door, the Stoughton Conservation Club's fishery on Keeganza is, you can't read it here, but it's January 31st. They got some great prizes there. The folks at Line Workers, which is a great group doing great things to educate people about fly fishing and tying, is having their last social event at Icky Sticky on the main drag there in Mount Horeb. That's going to be February 5th. Is that next week? Anyway, yeah, so a great event there. They're also starting a class here on learning to fly cast with confidence. I assume this is being taught by Kaylin Hoggart, or maybe Seth. But anyway, either way, they got great folks that do a great job teaching. I think it says $250 for the class. It's over 3 days, and you learn all kinds of stuff, not just casting, but how to read water and how to just improve your fly fishing skills, or just start. It says for beginners and intermediate folks. So we got a poster here for the Drinking with Scissors stuff. Of course, the Yahara Fishing Club poster is gone because that was canceled. And there's one more fishery on Bugle Lake in Independence, Wisconsin on February 7th. If you have an event, especially if it's fishing related, you'd like to promote, swing by, drop off a poster, and we will help promote that. So let's get into the report. So weather-wise, this last week, it was chilly. Very cold here in the Madison area, which is great for making ice. But the bitter cold seems to be peaking today with a whopping high of -7, but the warm-up is forecasted to be slow through next week, with temps predicted to be back in the 20s by next weekend, by which time we should have plenty of ice here on the Madison chain. But speaking of ice, while there are still some areas you're going to want to be careful, we're in a much better place than we were this time last week. And with this bitter cold, like on a day like today, we're making ice day and night for quite a while here, so that's great news. That being said, always be careful no matter where you are. I'm going to just pound that home for folks. And like I've been doing for these reports, I'm just going to go down through the ice conditions as I know them. Again, this is like, I've met a lot of folks in this morning, so this is like as of yesterday. And we've obviously been very, very cold last night and today, and so I'm sure we have more ice than what I'm going to report, and I like to try to be conservative. But I'll go through, do an ice report, and then we will swing back through and do a fishing report for the same areas. But start at the top here on Cherokee, plenty of ice here. There's solid probably 8 to 10 inches here in the bay where everybody fishes. Do be careful out in the channel. I usually avoid that anyway. There's not much fish out there in my experience. There wasn't open water here last week, kind of between the island, which you can't see, and what is that, Manitowish Way. I'm sure that's fine for foot travel, but of course, always be careful. North Bay, for weeks I've been talking about ice out there. There's kind of a line from like Governor's over to north of the state park, where that ice north of there has been fine for a while. There's probably 8 or 10 inches out there right now. The ice beyond that did extend last week, I believe, from like Governor's Island all the way over to the state park and then down, and I think the whole West Basin was wide open last week. As far as I know, that is all capped over. Please, though, if you do see anything out there, I can't see everything from the north side of Madison here, and I get a few folks that are nice enough to give me reports, but let me know what you're seeing out there. But as far as I know, the entire lake is capped over, and I would have to say there's probably at least 4 inches pretty much everywhere. I know I was out off Governor's Island on Wednesday, and I had 4 to 5 inches everywhere I went. But as far as the rest of the places go, places like Marshall Park, Spring Harbor should be fine. University Bay is, I'm sure, fine. All of this has had ice for a while, and actually, even after the warm-up, we had a line of ice basically from Governor's Island to Picnic Point and then east. It was all still locked up in ice. There's probably even more ice on the east side of Lake Mendota. Warner Bay, still that 200 yards that was out here we've been talking about for weeks, has plenty of ice there now. Like I said, I was out off Governor's Island out this way, and I had 4 to 5 inches as far as I could walk everywhere I went the other night. So on Lake Monona down here, that ice did just cap over on Tuesday this last week, so behind Lake Mendota. But, we've been bitter cold here, and that ice that capped over is going to start making ice pretty quick, I would assume. Always be careful in areas like where the Yahara dumps here, down in the shallow area of Weechowack Bay. There's current that comes through. But otherwise, we should be good to go as far as ice there on on Monona Bay. Like I said, there was a big open area that actually extended for a couple hundred yards out from the discharge over here. That is now locked up. Unfortunately, that's where that guy went through. So there's one spot out here about the size of an SUV where you're going to want to be careful. And then the fire department, whoever's going to be trying to get that out of there, might be working over there. But otherwise, you're good to go on the rest of the bay. and there. Winger's got good ice. Always be careful on this end of the lake. There's some springs I haven't heard if anybody's fishing below the dam over here. I imagine they are now that we've had some cold weather. But yeah, everywhere, like I said, Monona should be pretty good to go. Lake Farm and Upper Mud, the path back is, I'm sure, frozen solid. And the ice on Upper Mud's good. The ice on Mabisa and Keeganza held on really well. Of course, always do be careful up in this trestle area. There's always current there and almost always open water year-round. And again, down by Babcock here, the current kind of empties out there and can be a little sketchy ice route right by where the water exits the lake. But yeah, Wabisa should be good to go. Same thing down in Keeganza. Do be careful near Fish Camp County Park. Obviously, that's where the river dumps in and there's current coming in, so always be careful there. But otherwise, they're also running ATVs all over Lake Keeganza down there. So we swing back up here to the top and talk about some fishing on Cherokee. A lot of small fish up there, but you can sort through the small ones and get some keepers for your 10 fish limit, because that is considered 10 fish as it's connected to Mendota. But and good pike action up there. I haven't heard much else. A few bass here and there. But the ice is going to start getting thick. When that ice gets really thick, we get these really cold days, it can kind of slow down up at Cherokee. But otherwise, the action has been good up there. In North Bay, they've been out there for a few weeks. I've heard, some decent action for walleye, pike, mostly on the small side. But that is happening out there. I'm just going to kind of wrap around the lake here. Haven't heard anything. Nobody's out doing perch or anything yet. I wouldn't be surprised if there were folks out this weekend, though. Areas like Marshall Park, I haven't heard any reports. Neither. Same thing on Spring Harbor. U-Bay, haven't heard about anybody out there, but I bet the ice is fine by now. And yeah, same thing along city shoreline, stuff like that. Haven't heard a lot off Mendota because the ice is still pretty new out there. Folks in Warner Bay have been getting some pike and a few walleyes near dark, but mostly a pike game over there. Governor's Island, there have been folks out on Dunn's Bar. I would not, be out there myself, but to each his own. I don't know if they're getting anything, and honestly, I would give it a rest at least for a couple more days. The same with the area around Governor's Island. I know there are some permanents that have been pulled out, and there's always guys that like to push it, but those guys are not me, so I'm not recommending that. So, but like I said, I was off Govs out here on this break on Warner, and I had 4 to 5 inches everywhere I went. For the record, the fishing was not great for me. Actually, I got skunked, but it's fun to poke around and look for some new areas. Same thing on Monona. Haven't heard much for folks being out on the lake itself. Down in Weechawak Bay down here, there have been some folks getting some gills and some pike, but do be careful because that water was open last week, and there's always some current going through here. Haven't heard anything off Riverville in a while, but they were getting some pike in there. Monona Bay is Monona Bay, best bluegill spot in the state. And I'll fight anybody who wants to argue that with me. Ton of bluegills in there, and the fishing's been good and decent tip-up action for pike and bass. Same thing in the triangles. North Triangle's been a little more productive than South Triangle, but and even a walleye up in that North Triangle every now and then I hear about. We get a lot of small pike in there, and mostly small, and a lot of small bluegills, the occasional nice crappie or a perch or something, maybe a muskie, but it's a great place to keep it busy if you want to chase flags and catch a bunch of dink. Bluegills, otherwise down on Upper Mud, like I said, the path should be frozen solid to get back there. I haven't heard any reports recently, but I'm sure Upper Mud is totally frozen over and the ice is fine. But they were getting good gills in there in the dredge hole, so I would imagine that's still probably the case. Down on Wabisa, you got Kicker Cup happening on Sunday, so maybe a few more guys out there than you're used to, but otherwise up here at Lake Farm, they've been getting bluegill action and action on tip-ups. Get a little bit further out here, you might get some walleyes closer to dark. But I actually have seen some reports of some nice walleyes coming right out of the weeds here, and by folks using jigging rods, of all things. So, for jigging for panfish. But other than that, I haven't heard a lot. A little bit of perch action. Folks are starting to poke around out here, looking for perch. I've heard about bluegills down here in the south end of the lake, but not recently. Goodland County Park was all beat up with that warm we had, so not easy access down there. And some perch mixed in, actually, with some of those bluegills. A few crappies over here on the southwest, east end of the lake, and maybe some walleyes over there they get to. Down on Fish Camp, down on Keeganza, stay away from Fish Camp. But they've been getting perch out here in the main lake basin. You got to kind of chase them around, and sometimes they're good size, sometimes they're dinky. I haven't heard about any real jumbos, but same thing down here off the state park. They were getting some bluegills down there for a while, but I haven't heard many reports in that respect in a while. And some walleye action off Williams Point here, as is pretty typical. Otherwise, I haven't heard much off Koshkonong down here. They usually just run tip-ups and get walleyes and pike down there. I don't ever hear very much in the way of panfish. Beaver Dam Lake, I've heard about a good crappie bite up there, and some walleyes coming through the ice. Devil's Lake sounds like there is ice back on the lake again, and folks have been getting some trout out there. As far as the Wisconsin River goes, be careful. On some of the backwaters, it's really fun to explore these backwater sloughs, but with the water going up and the water going down, and then there's springs, always be careful. But I really love poking around some of these sloughs. You can really find some hidden gems in there. Lake Wisconsin, haven't heard much other than some panfish in the shallow bays. Not many people poking around out in the big lake. Haven't heard much off Petenwell or Castle Rock. I guess Petenwell sounds like it's doing better than Castle Rock. Same thing with the sloughs over here on the Mississippi. If you venture over there, do be careful. And then, yeah, they're fishing in the harbors over here too in Milwaukee, getting some brown trout and steelhead through the ice. I haven't heard anything off the river. It's been too wet and blown out, and now it's going to be too cold to fish for that. And, we do have the inland trout season, which is open. You can you only use artificial lures, and all fish you catch must be immediately released. But no matter what you're using, slow and low is really going to be the name of the game this winter. In the winter, and generally speaking, this time of year, your bite window really only runs from 10 to 2. So it's banker's hours as far as fishing goes. On the spinning gear side of things, just leave the fast, flashy spinners at home and work lures like small Rapala countdowns and husky jerks, or maybe a crappie-sized tube jig through some deeper holes and tailouts on the fly side of things. We can do our Happy Fly Day feature here. But, anything works, but pink squirrel is going to be my go-to anyway. That's a great winter fly, but, run a woolly bugger through some of those slower pools and tailouts. If you happen to see fish rising, make sure you have, some small flies, typically darker colored in the winter. You might see like some stone flies or maybe a tiny caddis coming off, and then of course midges. So these little flies here are great imitations for that. But otherwise, and a buddy of mine was fishing up closer to the La Crosse area, but he came across a tan hatch the other day. So it does pay to have those flies in your box. You just never really know. And this is a spotted sedge. It's kind of a rare thing to come off in February, but apparently they do hatch between October and February. And his problem was there was fish. The water was boiling with fish, he said, and he could not get one to bite because he did not have any tan caddis in his box. So I guess, good luck. But I was going to say, too, about the fly fishing and trout fishing in general. Probably not a good idea to be out fishing for those fish this week. The cold weather is really, can be tough on those fish. But soon, things are going to warm up, and we will be back out there. Otherwise, that pretty much does it for the report. I do want to thank you for tuning in. Make sure you post your comments and catch us below. We'd like to see that. Feel free to call the shop at 608-241-4225 if you want us to expand on anything. Otherwise, stay warm out there. Stay safe. I wish you luck, and we will talk to you next week. Thanks so much.